Hello there everybody, Sam Strings here, welcome back to the Railway and welcome to another beautiful Hornby Railroad loco unboxing and review. So today's loco is actually a very special loco to me personally. It was one of the very first models I ever bought for my collection. I think it was about the second ever Pacific I ever bought, and it was basically the model that made me get into the hobby to stay. Yeah, really quite a special one. It is a model that I've reviewed before. I reviewed it quite a few years ago now, but I don't think the review really did the model justice because it's now so old. So I thought I'd redo the review, I'd update it and make it like all my other reviews and try and do the model some justice. So here is the model. It is this. It's the Hornby Railroad A4 Mallard in the BR green. Not necessarily my favourite A4 livery, but it certainly looks very smart on this one. It's very interesting this. It hasn't got the valancers or anything so that you can see all of the linkage and valve gear. And yes, because of the memories I've got with this one, it's got to be probably one of my favourite models ever. So hope you're going to enjoy this today. Hornby is still producing these Railroad A4s still to this day. Not quite the same as this, but still the same model in the basic principle, I think. If you want to check those out, there's a link in the description, please do. And if you fancy one, do feel free to pick one up. But for now, let's get this out and we'll take a look. So yeah, as you can tell with the red and yellow packaging, this isn't even a top of the range Hornby A4. It's obviously from the Railroad range, which means it's a little bit cheaper, but also a little bit less detailed as well. If I take a look at the end of the box, I will show you that this is R2784X. It's a BR Class A4 Mallard and decoder fitted. Now that's not something you really see very much these days, especially with Hornby Railroad logos. Normally you just buy them DC or DCC ready from Hornby and then you can fit the decoder if you like. But from the era, 5 years ago or a little bit more, when this was bought, you could buy DCC fitted locos from Hornby, which I think is quite interesting. Now obviously as it's a Railroad loco, there's no info really about the class or anything like that on the back of the box. So I'm going to go ahead straight away and get this out and show it to you in all its beautiful glory. So if I can get this out without destroying the box completely, I'll do my best. So there we have it, no block of ice, no blister pack or anything like that, it's just in the foam, and I think most of the Railroad locos still are today, aren't they? And here we have the Class A4 Railroad operating and maintenance instructions, and inside here, yeah, it's just about what you'd expect really, isn't it? It shows you all the different lubrication points, a little bit about body removal, sound / DCC, all of that good stuff. It's showing actually a version of the loco which has the DCC socket on the loco and on the tender, so yeah, that's quite interesting, isn't it, I suppose? But anyway, enough of that. Let's take a look at this loco then and see how it's fared. Obviously, I've had this loco for quite a few years, and I'm really quite pleased with the way it's held up. So let me grab the tender first then, if I can. I think there are holes in the back of this one, so I'll push it out. Although this one's very firmly set into the packaging here. Grab it if I can. So yeah, this is from a time when the tender and loco were sort of shipped separately. They weren't permanently connected, which is fair enough, I suppose. But yeah, there you have it. There's the tender. Obviously, you can tell it's been clearly based on the old tender-driven version of this tender, but it's still quite nicely painted up nonetheless, as you can tell. So more on that in a little minute or two. Let's grab the loco then and take a look at this. And I always seem to say this, but as a Railroad loco, this thing looks absolutely fantastic. And like most people, when I got my first few models, this one included, I really didn't know what I was doing. So as a consequence of that, this loco has really been through hell and back. It's been over-oiled, it's been knocked around, it's DCC fitted, but I've run it on a crusty old controller from the 1970s, and yet it is still in perfect condition, more or less, and it still runs just as well as it did when it was brand new. Let me hold the tender with it. So yeah, it's just a real testament, isn't it, to the build quality on these things. I know sometimes I've got not very nice things to say about Hornby's build quality, but I really can't complain when it comes to these Railroad A4s. It looks brand new, more or less, doesn't it? And this logo has done an awful lot of work for me. And as I say, it's been knocked around a lot. So buzzing about this one, I absolutely love it. And it's still got that magic of one of the first locos I ever got. So for that reason, I absolutely love this. Anyway, here's a little bit of history of the A4 and of course Mallard herself. And after that, I will show you some nice close-ups of this and we can all appreciate her together. All right, let's do it. So the A4s, as you know, were a class of L&ER Pacifics designed by Sir Nigel Gresley, and they were first introduced in 1935. The first locomotive was Silverlink, which actually broke all speed records during its very first run. The A4s were made most famous though by Mallard, which was also known, and still is also known, as the world's fastest steam locomotive, and she achieved that title in 1938 at a touch over 126 miles an hour. The A4s were based on the slightly earlier Class A1, which was also a Gresley design, but they were produced around 15 years previously. 35 A4s were built in total, but only 6 of them are left. Mallard is of course one, and there are 5 others besides her which can still be seen in different heritage railways and museums and things to this day. Now, the first Hornby A4, other than the ex-Wren version of course, was first introduced in 1979, and I think this railroad version is very similar to that. I think it might even use the same body, or something similar at least, except it has of course had a few upgrades to the chassis, the mechanism, and I think also the tooling as well. But more or less it's pretty similar to the 1979 release. So there she is then, my first ever Mallard, looking absolutely lovely there up against the white background, despite being quite a cheap model, to be honest with you. I think I only paid about £100 for this, which doesn't sound too bad considering it was 6 or 7 years ago and it had a decoder fitted, and yeah, hopefully you'll agree that she is just beautiful. Now, it is quite funny because this loco I've had for a long time and I've shown it in a lot of different videos. And every time she's appeared, without fail, I've always had at least one comment, and if not one, then quite a few more, saying, "You've made a mistake. Mallard is blue. This can't be Mallard because it's green." Now, I know a lot of people are going to facepalm when they hear that because they'll know the reason. But just in case people aren't aware, I'll briefly explain it. So while it is absolutely true that the most well-known livery for Mallard has got to be the Garter Blue, that's the original livery she would have had, and I think she's definitely been preserved in that livery, it wasn't the livery she always carried. From 1948 onwards, when she became part of the BR fleet, she would have been painted up into this BR green, as most locomotives had to, regardless of where they came from, and I suppose she would have remained in that livery, in this beautiful BR green, or at least something similar, until she was saved from scrap and restored into original condition. But yeah, that's the reason. It is definitely Mallard, even though it's green, and yeah, it's true, the green is the less conventional, shall we say, livery for Mallard. But yeah, looking up close, hopefully you can appreciate the condition that she's in, given all the hammer she's had over the years. I mean, there isn't a mark on her. If anything, I could perhaps take the body off and give it a bit of a clean, but apart from that, absolutely immaculate, more or less. So I'm actually convinced that the super detailed modern A4s are still based on the same body, and I think that because there's so many similarities. The way the buffer beam fits on, the seam along the top, basically everything about it is pretty much identical. Now, I could be completely wrong about that. Someone, if you do know, do let me know, but I do suspect it is the same tooling. Obviously, the super detailed version has been updated quite a bit. For example, it's got the opening air intakes on the roof of the cab. All of the handrails on the side of the cab are no longer just moulded on and they're separately fitted. And you've got other details like lamp irons and reversing rods and that sort of thing, but apart from that, it's very, very similar. And just looking at this version, given that it's a railroad model, the quality of the lining on this is just superb. You can see it's got the sort of red and black banding on there, which is really, really, really nicely applied. You don't normally get such good paintwork on modern railroad models, but I got really, really lucky with this one. You've got the separately fitted Mallard nameplate, and I guess they have to be separately fitted in order for Hornby to have produced all the different versions that they did, but nonetheless, that's quite nice to see. And on the side of the cab, you've got yet more lining, as you can see, in addition to the running number there, which is 60022, and down below there you've got the route availability 9, which basically dictates where she would be allowed to go on her different travels and things. Now, for a cheap railroad model, there's quite a lot of separately fitted parts going on with this one. First of all, though, no separately fitted cab windows, unfortunately, which is a little bit of a shame, but I think that's fair enough. Apart from that, though, we have got these metal safety valves set into the roof of the cab there, which is really good to see. Just in front of the double chimney, we have the separately fitted whistle, which is also made of metal. That's also great to see. The front of the model has the vacuum pipe pre-fitted, which is good because you haven't got to do that yourself. I think originally it did come with a detail pack, which consisted of brake rigging and perhaps a vacuum pipe for the back, but I think they're long gone. I must have misplaced those. You do have sprung buffers on this model, which is great. Once again, let me just demonstrate. Yeah, sprung buffers, which is really good to see. And there's also a fair bit of pipe work as well going along the length of the streamlining. As you can see, you've got a pipe there and also a separately fitted handrail there, which is really quite nice and fine compared to the earlier 1970s and more common 1980s versions. So that's pretty good to see. As I said once again, this version doesn't have the balancers, which means you do get a good view of the valve gear and such. Unfortunately, unlike the super detailed version, it is quite chunky and a little bit unrealistic on this one, and I think that's just so that it's more robust for beginners and children and that sort of thing, just so that it isn't failing on them unnecessarily. But it isn't too bad, and certainly once it gets going, and once it's going at a decent sort of speed, it's not all that noticeable, which is good to see. Finally then, inside the cab, there is actually quite, to be fair, quite an impressive amount of detail inside there. There's quite a lot of sort of three-dimensional protrusion going on with that. Unfortunately though, none of it is painted, unlike the super detailed versions, but that could be easily rectified if you were skilled enough, which I'm not incidentally, but I know a lot of people are. So that's the Loco in a nutshell. Very, very lovely thing. Let's take a look at the tender then, and it's immediately obvious that these tenders are quite tall. The Colo sort of towers up above, and that is of course because when this model was first released, the motor unit was actually housed inside the tender, and quite famously they were really quite tall things, which meant quite tall coal loads also had to be used in order to fit them in there. Nonetheless, you've got the late British Railways crest, which is very nicely applied as always, as well as more of that red and black lining around the border of the tender there, which is lovely. There's a fair amount of underframe detail, as you can see, not too sophisticated, but it is reasonably good to see. And on the back you can see this is the corridor tender because it's got the corridor connector on there, which is quite nice. And also quite surprisingly, there's quite a few separately fitted parts in terms of handrails, more separately fitted sprung buffers, and of course the large coupling. Now, unfortunately, the couplings on this particular version are not NEM, so you can't swap them very easily. But I think on my later Railroad A4s, I think it's Gadwell, I'm pretty sure that one has got NEM pockets on it, which is great. In fact, I think it's got a new tender as well. This tender's been discontinued now, I think. But that's only an improvement. I think the new tender is a lot better. So there you go. That's quite a quick look at my A4 Mallard. Really, really love this one. Not an awful lot of detail to it, but I think that's really part of its charm. Let's get this down onto the track then. I'll get the DCC system hooked up and we will see how nicely she runs still after all these years. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay, so there she is then down onto the track, ready for her performance test. First of all though, here's what she's going to be hauling. So I actually picked out the largest reg of coaches I've got, and that is 8 XLNER teak coaches, so quite a lot for her to pull actually, especially considering she's a railroad model. Anyway, so I've got her plugged into the DCC Select. It just saves getting Railmaster on. It takes a long time to get this computer on, so the Select will do it just fine. So now I'm just going to give her a little bit of power for you, and we will just see how well she does these slow speeds. So I'm just turning this up slowly, and as you can see, she started actually. I think she can go slower than that. Can she? Yeah, more or less. So as you can see, I mean, once again, for a budget model, the slow speed performance, and in fact the performance full stop on this model, is incredibly good. Can you see that? Is she moving all right? Yeah, she is moving. So smooth as well at that speed. It's not jittery like it is with some models. It is absolutely 100% smooth, which is just incredible as far as I'm concerned. Let's take it forwards again and just see if we can get her over the express points. Because I would say the one downside with the performance of this is the coupling between the Loco and tender. It's got those contacts on it rather than having hard wires. Not a big fan of that, to be honest. However, it does seem to work okay, and if it does fail, you can always hardwire it. Anyway, she might just drift out of shot for a second while the Loco wheels go over the express points, and they have now. Yep, there we go, no stoppages at all, so that's great. Let's get her back into shot then, and we'll get her to couple to the coaches. Right, nice and gently does it. I'm not so good at controlling engines on DCC, so hopefully it'll go okay. There we go. Is she more or less in shot there? Yeah, let's just bring the focus in a touch. Right, it's going to be very interesting this, isn't it, to see if she can haul all 8 coaches. I think you'll be quite surprised though. If I remember correctly, she is a very good puller. So let's give her half speed straight away. And my goodness, I did not see any wheel slip at all there. So that is astonishingly good. So the thing for today is BR green, so you'll have to do some train spotting and see if you can spot the odd one out. I thought I would start though with some Pacifics, so I have here the A2, Peppercorn A2. Is it the Peppercorn? You know what, I'm wondering now. Either way, it's the Bachmann A2. It's the Bachelor's button one, and she's got some blood and custard coaches. And on the inside line, I thought I would go vintage with yet another Pacific. This is, of course, the Flying Scotsman. Also, in a less conventional livery to the one that she's normally sort of associated with, is the BL Green, very nice. And she's also got some chocolate and cream coaches. So enjoy the running session, and don't forget to let me know in the comments which other locos you spot. There's a lovely Bachelor's button. Looking fantastic. And here's the big test then. Can Mallard haul 8 coaches up Gordon's Hill without any wheel slip? Let's look and see. Keep an eye on those wheels. And that is actually amazing to me. Did you see that? No wheel slip whatsoever. And as I say, there are Pacifics I've got, which are much heavier than that, and can't pull so much. She's not a particularly heavy loco, so how she hauls so much so easily, I really don't know. And she's beautiful, isn't she? I think I do prefer the Garter Blue, of course, but just for a change, the BR Green is so smart, isn't it? Where's that Scotsman? There she goes. Quite a quick run of that one, as is often the case with trying. So here are some of my ratings then for the absolutely incredible, really, given the circumstances, Hornby Railroad A4. Detail 3 out of 5, I've had to give it a middle of the road score there. As much as I love the detail of this model, you have to sort of admit that it's only sort of average, but certainly not bad for a railroad model by any means. The power though is absolutely astonishing, no sign of any wheel slip with 8 coaches, goodness knows how many she could manage, but to be honest I've got much more expensive Bachmann Pacifics that struggle with that number, so that's very impressive. Also, the slow speed is astonishingly good as well on DCC, really good and controlled even at the very slowest speeds, very smooth, really like that. Quality was also very good. I've given this a 5 out of 5. In fact, the later railroad versions are even better quality because we haven't got that unstable connection between the loco and tender. But on this one, the quality is pretty good. I mean, how can it not be? 6 or 7 years of my hammer running around on the carpet and it still runs as though it was brand new. So 100% thumbs up on the quality. Value then, the newest version in Garter Blue can be bought from Hornby's website for £111, which is rather expensive I would say, although obviously you can pick them up pretty cheap from other places such as Hatton's. I've seen them for about £75, so I think given that it's really quite impressive. I've given it 4 out of 5, just above average. Overall then, that is 8.40 out of 10, and into the ranking she goes 12th, just above the Helgen Metropolitan Bobo and below the Bachmann D11. I think that's probably the highest a Hornby Railroad loco has ranked. I'll have to double check. And there's definitely a very ripe smell in the air coming from this Triang loco, but once again that's all part of their charm I reckon. No complaints about that, that's for sure. But definitely no funny smells coming from the more later Mallard, that's definitely true. Well, since it is Mallard after all, I do think it might be a little bit rude not to see how quick she can go, especially with such a big load. So, shall we crank this up a little bit and just see what kind of speed she can do? Let's go for it. There we go. It's pretty much full speed. And with no extra noise, you squeeze so much speed out of these. Look at her go. Just captures the speed of Mallard beautifully, doesn't it? Gosh. Just look at her go, and she handles those tight curves, well, second radius, pretty well actually, at that speed. Quite impressive, that. I don't think I'd dare do this with Bachelor's Button there, because the Bachmann motors are a little bit more fragile, shall we say, than the Hornby ones. Boom. And breathe. I don't know, it's fun getting them up to those speeds, but it's sure scary. I don't have to worry about them derailing. Ah, much better now. It had to be done though, didn't it? Rude not to, really. Very nice. Oop. Well folks, I do hope you enjoyed this review as much as I did. Clearly I am quite personally attached to this model, but even if you're not, hopefully you can see what a beauty it is, given the price that they are. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoyed it as always, and if you did, please feel free to leave the video a like or even a comment because I do love your feedback. But for now folks, thank you very much once again for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon. Cheers everybody.